from me to all of you as well, to this beautiful house. It's always a joy to be here for me, as I'm sure it is for you as well. And this topic of keeping calm in a world of chaos. There are so many ways in which we could explore the extent of the chaos that is happening in the world out there. And I'm not even going to attempt to talk about the environment, to talk about so many issues that feel in our lives to be chaotic. But I do just want to look at how our day-to-day lives are now and the rate of change that we're going through in our lives. It almost feels like we need to be wearing a seatbelt just to get through our everyday life. The rate of change is so fast. And if I think of a slogan that in a way captures up the mood of the last decade, possibly the last 2 decades, it would be this slogan of keep calm and carry on. It's become a ubiquitous catchphrase, which obviously has its origins in wartime, when the chaos was much more obvious and immediate. This sense of needing to keep calm and carrying on. But in more subtle ways, our lives today are also, you could say, under attack. But it's much more subtle. The changes are much less obvious. But the impact it has on our day-to-day lives is nonetheless profound. We were talking at breakfast time, a couple of us, about keeping up with the pace of change with the technology that we all of us now interact with. And there was a sister who has got a new laptop, and she was saying how now she pays for things by just putting her finger, like the fingerprint is enough to make this change happen. And we were talking about the way in which we now all rely on sat-nav, to the extent that there are many in the younger generation who simply don't know how to read a map anymore. It's like we're being de-skilled without us realizing it. Our lives have been changed so profoundly in relatively a short amount of time that it can leave us feeling bewildered. It can leave us feeling as if there is a degree of losing touch with ourselves that has happened as a result of this pace of change. So I've just been reflecting on the changes that I've experienced in my life. And as has been kindly pointed out, there are quite a few years now that I have been alive. So, you know, I am in my mid-50s now. And if I think back to the childhood experience that I had, so I grew up in Reigate in Surrey, which is just near to Gatwick Airport, half an hour's ride from London. So, okay, so we're not talking out in the sticks in the middle of nowhere. We're talking half an hour south of London. And just a few examples. Our shopping habit at that time, for many, many years, was we went to our corner shop. It was run by a man called Mr. Wilson. He wore a white coat, and he had all the different foods that we would need, and my mother would go, and he knew her name, he knew my name, and she would ask for things, and he would go and fetch them and cut them up according to the weight that was wanted, wrap them in a little piece of paper, put them in a box, get some vegetables, whatever it was that was needed. He would go off, put them all together, then he would carry them out into the car, and that was us done. Pretty much, that was our main shop for the week. You might visit a few high street shops during the week to top up, but that was basically it. We went somewhere where we were known and there was a human interaction. Whereas if you think nowadays what's happening with our shopping, sometimes we even just sit at home and we order it online. We don't even go out to a shop. There is no human contact at that point at all. someone will just deliver it to our door. But if we do go out, it's not a small corner shop anymore. It's one of a big number of supermarkets, and they're not small. They're vast, and we wander up and down these aisles with, rows of, crisps, of biscuits, of alcohol, of ready meals, because who cooks anymore at home? It's like we put it all in our trolley, and then half the time we then are doing this checkout with this robot voice that is asking us to put things through. We're not even at that point talking to a human being anymore. We put it in our basket and we go home, possibly with no human interaction whatsoever. It's a massive change in a relatively short amount of time. If we look at money and banking, so my grandfather was the bank manager of the Piccadilly branch, London Piccadilly branch of NatWest. And he prided himself on knowing not only the names of all of his customers, but the names of all his customers' children, so that when they came in to talk about something, he could ask about the children. This was the level of human relationship that took place within the banking world. I don't know what it's like where you live, but where I live, the high street banks are closing. We've had Lloyds have gone, HSBC has gone, Barclays has gone. We've hardly got any banks. There is no more face-to-face contact. It's all done online. It's done by, telephone banking. So we're speaking to someone who absolutely doesn't know us from Adam. All they know about us is our the amount of money in our account. There's no sense of history. There's no sense of a relationship being built up over a period of time. So it's become less intimate. That exchange has become less personalised as time has gone on. Media, communication. There is an area of profound change. So growing up as a child, the communication that you had with the outside world was you had a telephone. No answer machine, just a telephone. You had a postman that came every day and delivered letters. If you wanted to speak to someone, you would ring them up, and they may or may not be at home. If they weren't at home and someone else answered, you would just leave a message, and you may or may not get that message given to you that they had called. Now, if we look at the forms of communication that we have, it's ridiculous. I actually made a list. Now, I'm someone that isn't necessarily the most, advanced in my consumption of technology, because I like to keep things simple. But when I made my list, it was like, goodness gracious, So we have our mobile phones, which are with us all the time. We're getting messages all the time. That wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we're available, we're responding. We have our email life to keep on top of. It's not only that they come to our computer at home, but they're now coming through to our phones. So we're keeping on top of that form of communication. We have our text messages, ping, 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 all the time. We're responding to that. We then get on our phone our news alerts. If you're getting BBC, news flashes, they come up on your phone. You get alerts when you have an app that needs upgrading. Ping, 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 okay. Another form of communication with another whole selection of apps that you've chosen. Your YouTube notifications. Maybe once you looked at a YouTube video, now you're getting ping, ping, ping. Someone's uploaded a new video. Another form of communication that's coming into you. Facebook. Don't even get me started on Facebook, emails from Facebook to say I'm missing out on all the things that have been happening on Facebook. Like, get a life, Since I was last on Facebook, someone has been to the gym and worked out and I didn't know about it. How dreadful is my life all of a sudden? Or if I do post something on Facebook, how many people have liked what I've put? So we start getting insecure about my place in society. You maybe want to post a photo. How am I looking in my photo? Are my clothes right? Is my hair right? Do I even dare put a profile picture? Because, do I really feel okay about how I look? But if you don't, what message is that giving to the outside world? And then Facebook always suggesting new friends. You know, it's like more people who I've really no contact with, who I might want to know whether they've been to the gym this week or not. You then have Messenger. People send me messages on Messenger. What is that? You've got to suddenly download the Messenger app and now keep on top of your Messenger messages as well. iMessage if you've got iPhone. FaceTime. It's not enough just to, send a message now. It's all FaceTime. Walking along, FaceTiming someone. Skype. You have your Skype calls booked. Your Zoom calls. You're doing your Zoom calls. WhatsApp. Which of us now doesn't use WhatsApp? So you're keeping up with your WhatsApps. So your Snapchat. If you're under a certain age, you've got Snapchat going on, roughly every 3 seconds. Your Instagram. Have I posted pictures that reflect who I am? And, is that the right image that I'm portraying? Pinterest. Anyone here on Pinterest? Yeah. What's that all about? You like something. Suddenly, I'm getting emails to say some completely random person who I've never met, I'm never going to meet, has just saved one of my pins. Do I really need to know that? It's quite extraordinary. PayPal. I get a message from PayPal to say, was this you who did this transaction? Because there's a transaction that's been recorded that doesn't seem to fit with your normal behaviour and pattern. And suddenly you're there for an hour trying to change your password and your username and, did I make that transaction? I can't remember. It gets so complicated. eBay. We use eBay nowadays. It's, why not? But that's a big mistake. You happen to click on something on eBay, just, in the privacy of your own home. Maybe you were, looking for something. Suddenly, every piece of software that you interact with is flashing up with images of advertising more and more of these things that you just happen to look at on eBay. How do they all know that I was looking at that? It feels extraordinary that there is this level of, this depth of communication between all these different organisations. Gumtree. You maybe posted something on Gumtree. So you're getting messages every few minutes. Somebody liked, I sold off a garden slide the other day. Inundated for weeks with messages. Is the slide still available? No, it's not. It's sold on the first day. It's gone. Trust me, it's gone. Spock. Kids are into Spock, selling their stuff. Messages from your bank. You're about to go overdrawn. Twitter. Whew, that's almost like a part-time job. Especially if you're following Donald Trump these days. I mean, you need to take the day off and usually go and lie down in a darkened room with a cold flannel on your forehead afterwards. So we're being bombarded with all of this communication. It's feeding into our insecurities. And yet, actually, what is our human experience? Is there genuine human contact as a result of all of these forms of communication? Or are we just being spun into this frenzy of activity, this frenzy of needing to be everywhere, doing everything all the time? So this is my point with all of this. I'm not against all of this technology. I love my mobile phone as much as the next person. In fact, if you took it away from me, my life would probably grind to a halt in about 2 days. But it's just worth stopping sometimes and just reflecting on where we've come from and where we are now. I did a little bit of research on this topic, which for me threw up some quite surprising results. There was one piece of research done which showed that the average internet user sees 11,150 adverts a month. Those are adverts that they haven't necessarily gone looking for, but they can be personalised according to what you've been browsing. 11,150. Social media usually is about 111 different adverts that you're exposed to a day. We've gone from being exposed to 500 adverts a day in the 1970s to 5,000 adverts a day now. It's every available space is being covered with an image, a logo, something that is being, some message that is being put on us, is taking up our headspace, is taking our concentration. So this next generation down, they call them the millennials. This fear of missing out, it's called FOMO, fear of missing out, has generated a culture where they're checking their phone how many times a day? It's 150 times a day. 150 times a day. Is there anything else you do in your life every day 150 times? There's nothing else. Millennials can't look you in the eye for more than 1 second. So there's all this communication going on, and yet when it comes to one-to-one human interaction, they can't do it. As a child, again, we had, there was probably one program for children that I consumed, Watch with Mother. Anybody here remember Watch with Mother? Yeah? It was a big highlight of the day, you looked forward to it. Then, as time went on, there was a few more children's programs that came online, like Blue Peter. But they weren't particularly intrusive into our life. We carried on being children. But that has now built and built and built to the point where the amount of choice you have for consuming media is mind-boggling. Just on your Freeview channel, how many channels are there? Is it about 150? I don't know, I don't even look at it. It's about 150 channels that you have to scroll through. And that's before you have your Sky channels. It's before you have your Netflix. We're literally being bombarded with programs. And it's taking up this space inside of us. It's creating us into such sort of busy, consuming individuals. I'm just thinking of the simplicity of when I was a child. If you wanted to play with a friend, I had a friend who lived up the street. Her name was Sandra Palmer. If I wanted to play with a friend, I'd go and knock on her door, ask her mum, would Sandra like to come out and play? And we would, for hours, play as children would play. Kids don't do that anymore. Their contact with their peer group is very often via these new forms of communication. They're not just looking at one screen anymore either. Kids these days are, they're double screening, they're triple screening. So they may be watching something on the television whilst doing some research for their homework on their laptop, whilst having a conversation with someone on Snapchat. How do they do that? And yet their brains are capable of doing that. This is the level of input that they need. And they do crazy things, like they go out and buy a dress so that they can just take a selfie of themselves wearing this new dress and then take the dress back. What's that all about? They order fancy drinks with umbrellas and straws and, sparklers and things, take a selfie of themselves with this drink. No intention of actually, drinking it. It's just for the photo. It's become about, what's become more important is how you look to the outside world rather than who you are. Our emphasis is on everything is in training people to really place importance on their physical body. This is our form of relating to the outside world. Do I look good? Do I look right? Am I being seen to look good by the right people? It's a huge amount of pressure. I will stop in a minute, I promise, about going on about this technology, but there's just one last thing that kind of gets to me a little bit in my everyday life. When we had a day out, my mum would make some sandwiches, we'd get in the car, we'd drive maybe to the beach, we'd sit on the beach, we'd eat our sandwiches, build a sandcastle, up until probably being a teenager, and we'd come home. Whereas a day out now is, it's not like that anymore. Say you want to go to have a fun day out. Say you want to go to Legoland. Well, are you going to be the one person at Legoland that has been idiot enough to pay the full price at Legoland? Of course you're not. So you now have to research your day out. You now have to find your best deal for your day out. You go on your comparison websites, who's offering the best price for this thing? And, am I going to get 2-for-1 cinema tickets or 2-for-1, meals out? Or, maybe even I can use my Tesco vouchers for my day out. So I go on, remember your username, remember your password, go onto your Tesco website. Find that they're doing, oh yeah, you can do 4-for-1 on that, great. Ring up, make sure, can I on a Tuesday use the Tesco vouchers? Yes, you can use the Tesco, fine. Order the Tesco vouchers, they're now sent to you via email. And then you maybe want to have something to eat, and it's like, well, I'm not going to just pay full price anywhere. Who does that anymore? So there you are onto your Groupon website. You're looking for your Groupon deals. There's a good deal. We've got to have that one. Ring up. Have you got a table free at Tuesday? Yeah, great. Okay. Can I hold it for an hour? Fine. Go back onto your Groupon. Order. Click. It's sent to you as an email. You then have to find your username and your password for your email so that you can go get that, download that, print it off, make sure you got it. And, before you know it, you spend hours. It's so complicated. Our lives have become so complicated. I'm going to take a deep breath now. It is funny in one way, and in another way, where is this all going? I do worry for this next generation. They're being parented by people who, on the whole, can remember another time. But what happens when there's a generation being parented by those who don't know another way? There was an interesting project near where I live in Hereford, which was run by an organisation called the Save Childhood movement. And they noticed that on all the housing estates, kids don't play out anymore. They're virtually empty. When I was a kid growing up, you played out on your bike, cycling up and down, whatever you were doing. So they set up this project called the Mud Pie Project, and they had this lovely gazebo, and inside the gazebo was literally mud, water, saucepans, cups, things for stirring. And the idea was to try and tempt the kids to come and just be children making mud pies. What's more quintessential childhood joy than just making a mud pie in a saucepan? They didn't come. The kids didn't come. They sat there. No one came. And they did this in quite a few different places. And so they interviewed the parents, and the parents explained, we don't want them playing out, actually. We don't feel the world is a safe place. There could be, who knows, lurking around, waiting to snatch my child. They actually liked the fact that they were in the home, and what were they doing in the home? Of course, they're on their screen, they're on their tablet. That's before we've even talked about the concerns of, the drug culture that is pandemic in our society. Do you want people randomly mixing and giving your kids ideas? No, the safest thing is to keep them at home. Kids as young as 2 on tablets. So the next generation now, they want a play date. Very often it's a virtual play date. I don't know if you've got children in your life, but they have these games that you can play on the computer where you talk to your friend in real time. So you're wearing headphones and a microphone, but they're not innocent games. They're kind of dressed up to be innocent. There's this one game called Fortnite. Does anyone here know of Fortnite? Bit of nodding going on in the front row. Nightmare. If you're in charge of kids these days. This game looks as if it's fairly harmless. The characters that you can play as kind of look a bit fluffy and fun. But actually, if you watch for a few minutes, what these characters are doing is they're chasing after the enemy in order to mow them down. They're killing them. with their weapon of choice. And kids, it's addictive. Kids are playing this for hours. And this is what they're doing rather than actually playing outside in the real world with real people. And so we do have to ask ourselves, yes, all this change is innovative and it's amazing, but is the human experience within that, is that really nourishing us? Is that really nourishing the next generation? What's happened to this human contact? What's happened to this sense of belonging to a community, of feeling known in a community? I don't know how it is in your communities, but loneliness is a big problem in society. We live on a planet of, how many is it now? 7 billion, 8 billion people? There's that many people in the world, and yet so many people are really suffering with loneliness. And mental health goes along with that. And we're fed this notion that all the time the world is getting better and better. Everything is always for our benefit. All these changes are to save us time. Well, that's a joke. Which of us feels that we have more time than we used to? This whole list of things that we're checking 150 times a day, is that giving us more time? And if you sort of step backwards a little bit, this whole notion of evolution of humanity, that we have gone from being, illiterate cave people who knew nothing, and that through the years we've been evolving, and we are now at the pinnacle of human experience and achievement. And in some senses, yes, we are. But in other senses, we've become impoverished in the process. And it can almost feel as if this modern world that we're living in has been constructed in such a way as it's virtually impossible to find time for stillness. Where do we go to find stillness? We're coping with all of these changes in our everyday lives. This is before we've looked at health issues that people are coping with relationship issues that are so much more complex than ever they were, parenting issues more complex. The human experience within that, is it really better than it was? I put forward really this sense that we're actually more impoverished than we were 50 years ago when I was a child, in terms of our human contact, in terms of our sense of belonging, in terms of our sense of having time to just simply be. The kids in this next generation, when do they get time to just sit and watch clouds floating by in the sky? To just be in nature, to be still, to not need input from external sources, just to be with themselves. It's very easy to feel actually spun out to the point of feeling actually quite exasperated, quite stressed, quite desperate even, quite hopeless. Hopelessness can creep in, and people then look to external ways of propping themselves up. This research that I was doing, 62% of people said they shop in order to make themselves feel better. They recognize that there is something missing within them, some quality, some interaction, some experience that is missing, and they're looking for how to fill that. The bigger picture of where we've come as a species as well can lead us to feel a little bit hopeless. This whole Big Bang theory, with the word theory being quite an important word, it is only a theory, but that we've somehow evolved over billions of years, and us as human beings are a kind of some accident and evolution that we're even here at all. And we've only been here for this tiniest blip when you talk about the evolution of the cosmos. And I saw once a program which said that if you extended your arm and time began here at your shoulder and carried all the way down the length of your arm, then the amount of time that human beings had been on the planet was equivalent to taking a nail file and doing one stroke of your fingernail and removing just that much of your fingernail. And that was equivalent to how long human being... I mean, how's that for making you feel like, well, what does it matter what I do with my life anyway? We can feel quite insignificant. Doesn't that make you feel insignificant? The whole of human experience is condensed down to one swipe of a fingernail. And so when I look to the past, whether that be the past of my childhood, and I see a quality of experience that isn't there today, a quality of family interaction, family time that isn't there today, a quality of relationships between individuals that is hard to find today. You go back further and further in time, you look at, the ancient Egyptian civilization, the Aztecs, look at the wisdom of the Native Americans, look at the rich heritage of India, look at what they were doing a couple of thousand years ago, look at the way that they built buildings. Does that seem to you like they really didn't know anything? Or does it seem to you that perhaps there was a quality of experience that was there at that time, a quality of being that was reflected in the way they did things and the beauty that they created, that actually we can't match in this day and age? So it's just challenging this assumption that everything is getting better all the time. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe there has been this gradual losing of quality of experience. Yes, you can't argue with the wonders of technology. It is amazing. But what is the human experience that is interacting with that technology really experiencing? Where is that leaving us collectively as a society? That we no longer have those moments of interacting with people as we go about our business in ways that we used to. And where is that heading? Where is that all going to lead? And so, yes, it can feel like a world of chaos. It can feel like a random world that we're living in that is hurtling out of control. And if we're only a blip in evolution, does it really matter anyway? Does it matter what I do? Does it matter who I am as a person? I'm insignificant. There's billions of people on the planet. It's no wonder depression and mental health is what it is. We've somehow been brought to this place of emptiness, of impoverishment. And calm is the last thing that we're feeling. And so it becomes almost to sit in a room like this. You haven't been able to switch me off after 30 seconds, which, is what you do in the living room at home. We've sat here, we've shared some beautiful silence together. You haven't had 11,500 adverts put in front of you in the last half hour. You've just sat in a state of being. That's quite hard to find in this world now. It's precious beyond words. And we have to we have to create a very clear intention if living our lives in this world the way it is now, if we want to carve out some calm for ourselves. Because the way things are set up, it's not easy to find. You know, often people are using their phones as a way of an alarm clock in the morning. So from the moment they wake up, boom, there they are, checking their messages into their day, boom, every 150 times a day, checking their messages, going to sleep, boom. People are chatting on their phones right up until the point when they go to sleep. There has been no moment of calm in their day. And why does that matter? Why does it matter if we don't have any calm? Well, isn't it in these moments of silence, these moments of stillness, that actually I can begin to get a profound sense of who I am without all this bombardment? Do we not have a right to know who we are for ourselves, rather than how we are being told to see ourselves, of how advertisers are wanting us to think of ourselves? When I sit in that moment of calm, what happens to me? The busyness of my thoughts. You know, our thoughts have been trained to move so fast now that it's really hard to slow those thoughts down. In many cases, it's easier just to keep going. We know we're rushing through our lives, but that is somehow easier than just slowing. And so, in my life, I really try and build in moments of calm. So I'm a real, what I like to call a cup of tea yogi. It's a ritual in our society that is completely acceptable. It's something, we don't do it 150 times a day, but, you know, quite a few times a day. So we can use this ritual of having a cup of tea to slow down. We use a cup of tea in that way anyway. We boil the kettle. We have to wait for the time it takes for a kettle to boil. There's no app that can make a kettle boil any faster yet. We then have to pour the tea. There's something slowing about the motion of pouring water into a cup. We then have to stir. We then have to add our milk or whatever else we're having. We then have permission to sit down. We give ourselves permission for the duration of that cup of tea to simply be. And so, you know, in my life, I will use this cup of tea as, it's almost like, you know, here I am, here's my cup of tea. It's perfectly obvious what I'm doing. I'm sitting down having a nice cup of tea. But actually what I'm doing with that cup of tea is I'm using it as a chance to slow my thoughts right down, take a moment in which I really take a breath and feel a moment of calm. If you were to sit on the sofa without a cup of tea, having your moment of calm, and someone walked in, they would say, "Are you all right? What's going on? You're sat there not doing anything. Who does that in this day and age? Yes, something happened." But if you've got a cup of tea in your hand, no questions asked. It's obvious. You're having your cup of tea. You can quickly open your eyes, and you would appear to anyone as a normal person. It works really well. Try it. Try it at work. You can meditate with your eyes open. You don't have to close your eyes. Cup of tea in your hand. No one's going to question you. They might after, half an hour, if you haven't had a sip of your tea yet, they might be, it's getting cold now. What's going on here? So we need to work hard to find ways of bringing calm. And this busyness of our everyday lives, bringing us to a place where we scarcely have time to really enter into a meaningful relationship with ourselves. Who am I? what really matters to me. Never mind how I'm appearing to the world out there. What is the quality of my experience within myself? To take time to ask myself these kind of questions, it's becoming more important as time goes on. And it's not just a connection, a meaningful connection with my deeper self, but it's only in that taking time to be in silence that we can feel a sense of connection to something that is greater than myself. Our spiritual life. A life in which we feel there is a co-creative experience with some divine intelligence that is out there. The busyness of our everyday lives is really blocking that connection, which is potentially there for us to experience our own innate qualities and to experience something of this connection with, you can call it source, you can call it the creative energy of the universe, you can call it God, whatever works for you. And this can become a power that I can draw on and I can use in this everyday life, this mad world that we're charging around and becoming part of. And how about choosing to see this life rather than being a life of completely insignificant importance, of being part of a species that is just some random accident of evolution? How about seeing myself as actually being a unique, powerful, creative, co-creative potential that has huge significance? Because when we learn to take time to find these moments of calm within the busyness of our everyday lives, we come to really see the potential, the power of our thinking, and the way in which our thinking is shaping our being. There's a saying, as you think, so you shall become. In these modern lives of thinking, all these thoughts, every few seconds, to do with the external world, those thoughts have lost power because they're being diluted by all these images and ideas that I'm being bombarded with. But when I sit in that moment of calm, what am I experiencing as being the true qualities of myself? Who is the real me within this experience of living in this modern life? Am I defined by my gender, by my job, by the car I drive, by the relationship that I'm in, by any of the roles that all of us play in our complicated modern lives? Do those define who we are? Or is there something that exists above and beyond all of those things? An essential part of me that feels like it has value and meaning. There is some depth to it. And that by choosing to slow those thoughts down in a few moments in the day, becoming aware of which thoughts are actually driving my day-to-day experience, and which thoughts are bringing me to a place of feeling connected, of feeling empowered, and which thoughts are draining my energy. I can slowly begin to build up a power within myself that is not being controlled and dictated to by all these outside agencies that are clamoring for our headspace. It's a bit like a kind of a colonization. You know, in years gone by, we went out and colonized other countries. And it feels to me that what's going on now is a bid for colonizing our mind. Directing our thinking towards certain habits, certain ways of being. Am I happy for that? Or do I want to take back some kind of control over what happens in here? Do I have the freedom to choose that? Or am I just being swept along with this whole movement towards rapid change that can lead us feeling like we're spinning out of control? Many people have the experience of actually their thoughts becoming, it's like they're almost a slave. Their thoughts are no longer their own to control and do what they want with. Their thoughts are being pulled here and there and everywhere. And they have no choice other than to follow those thoughts. So powerful are the images that are being bombarded at us. You know, many times, how do we know what my thoughts would be if it wasn't for all of these other things that are crowding in on my headspace? And so as time goes on for me, it becomes even more important to really spend a few moments every day without any of this external influence on I, the soul. Switch the phone off. Unplug your devices. Slow things down. Don't worry if you're missing out on something that is going on out there. You know, we're so driven by this notion that I have to be living this fantastic life and telling everyone about it, that somehow doing nothing feels like it's not an option because somehow I'm missing out on something that is going on out there. I don't want to be left out. But maybe in rushing in that direction, what we're missing out on is what is going on within myself. And maybe that's what we need to be concerned about missing out on. Time with myself. Time to simply be with thoughts that are being generated from my own innermost being. And it can be amazing what comes up in those moments. The power, the beauty of my own thinking is actually richer than any of these other things that are being put in our way. Actually, I have a universe within myself that can nourish and feed me. I don't have to feel defined by these external images. And with time and with practice, and it does take a commitment to make that practice a part of your everyday life, very quickly you can see the changes beginning to occur within. You can begin to feel more peaceful. You can begin to feel as if you have a sense of your true being. You begin to know who you are. And when you come into contact with other people, you slow down enough that you can have a meaningful exchange. You can look at someone in the eyes for more than a second. You can really hear what they're saying. Because as human beings, that's what we're wanting. We're wanting to be seen. We're wanting to be heard. We're wanting to be understood. And ultimately, we're wanting to be loved. And the way society is going, we're not getting those needs met. Technology can't give us the love that we're wanting. It can distract us, it can keep us busy, but it's not nourishing us at a deep soul level. We need to take responsibility for that ourselves. And listen to that still, small voice within. In a way, what's happening here tonight is a revolutionary thing in this current society. To sit in silence, in stillness, with just our own thoughts, slowed right down, feeling our breathing. Yeah, this is not everyday people's experience, this moment of peace. And those of you who live near enough to Leicester to come here have this amazing gift of this house, that you can come and leave all that outside and enter into this stillness that this space offers. Begin to enter into a relationship with yourself that is based on true values of who I really am. And make time for that still, small voice to speak to us, to inspire us, to bring us into a place of creativity, of feeling expanded, of feeling like my life does matter. In fact, this is a precious life. And this time that we're all living through is an extraordinary time. In many ways, it is the worst of all times. But in many ways, it's also the best of all times. We've got these two things going on. We've got the darkness seems to be getting darker, but the light seems to be getting lighter. And humanity is going through a real regeneration at the moment. We're beginning to wake up to the power that we as human beings really have to make a difference, not just in our lives, but to make a difference to the whole world out there. And when you take the time, it's actually quite easy to ask yourself and come up with the answer to the question of how would I like this world to be? What would I like to see in this world that isn't there now? What would I change if I could change something in the world out there? What would it be? So quite a few years ago, I was part of a project that the Brahma Kumaris ran called Global Cooperation for a Better World. And what we did was we brought people together to spend an afternoon brainstorming a vision of a better world. What would education, how would we educate people in a better world? How would families operate in a better world? How would nature be in a better world? What food would we eat in a better world? How would the animal kingdom operate in a better world? What would the world be like if there was no crime? If there was no violence? If humanity had its needs met so that it was simply content to just be? And it was quite extraordinary how quickly people could run with this idea of creating a vision of a better world. They knew it instantly. They knew what they would want. And we would spend time building this vision over a period of a few hours, to the point where it almost felt like we were living in that world now. We could make it feel very real for ourselves. And in that world there was a deep sense of connection with the self. There was a deep sense of connection with fellow human beings. And the second part of that project was that we would come up then with one practical action that we could do, a next step that would make a difference out there in the world. And this was in the days when the Brahma Kumaris hadn't yet started getting really hands-on with practical projects. It was emerging from this time of being an organisation that pretty much focused on the individual journey of transformation and the experience of meditation. Now the Brahma Kumaris is involved in so many spheres of life right across the world, all walks of life. But that was quite new at that time, and we got involved in projects in the world that felt like they were making a difference. But we have within us a longing, a yearning for a world that truly meets our needs. And so I urge you to not sleepwalk into the busyness of the way the world is leading us, but to make a commitment to slow, to find calm, to create meaning in your life, to make your life matter, to make it feel like there is a purpose to me being here. That I, as one individual, really can make a difference. Because this is how change takes place. When we change ourselves, that ripples out and affects the world. Change then happens out there as a result of the change that I have made in here. So each person becomes almost like a crucible in which we bring together the ingredients and we mold and we shape them and we create something that is beautiful, and we become that. And we carry that with us in our lives. We carry that out into the world. And the vision of the world not always being as it is now is a very potent vision. And it's one that we're moving towards. In reality, we are moving towards that. It's a bit like the symbol of the yin and the yang, you know, where you have the dark half and then the light half. And there's this interplay between dark and light. And we experience that every day and every night. You know, that we go from night to day and from day to night. And there's this interplay between the two. Well, to my mind, the world in general is moving through this evolutionary change from a time of darkness into a time of light. And that still small voice is calling to us to recognize our potential as human beings, to step into the power of our soul qualities, and to really become that, to really be that. And make a difference, not just for me, but for the whole world. So we're going to have an experience of meditation in a moment, an experience of calming our thoughts down and feeling those true soul qualities that bubble up when we make time and space. But we do have a roving mic, I think, and so it would be nice to hear something of your own experience, of how you're coping with this chaos, this busyness, and how you're finding chances to experience that calm. Has anybody got a thought that they would like to share on that? Yeah. Could we have a mic at the front here?
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Recently, I have sort of started calming myself
Yeah.
in this busy life since I've joined the Brahma Kumari sessions. So I make sure when I wake up and I give at least 5 minutes to myself, just sit down and just close my eyes, just don't think anything, don't go to the phone. I've stopped using the phone,
The
mobile phone when I wake up. And
Did you used to do that before?
Yes, straight away, go to my phone, turn the alarm off, check the messages, WhatsApp, what's going on, who's messaged me, is there anything important, brothers, sister, friends, but not anymore. And same thing when I go to sleep, I just calm myself, talk to myself, then go to sleep.
And what difference do you feel that has made in your life?
I can see that I'm becoming a little peaceful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say huge because I'm still on that path. I'm still teaching myself.
Yeah.
And I send vibes to the people I like.
You send what, sorry?
Positive vibes
Yeah, positive
to the
vibes.
people.
Yeah.
I think the people come to my visualization when I'm
Yeah.
doing that. And straight away I get the messages from those people.
Wow. So are you waking up ahead of the rest of your household waking up?
No, I work night shifts.
You work night shifts?
Yes,
Okay.
so when I wake up, it's just me, myself in the room.
So there's no one else in the house anyway?
No.
Okay.
My mother-in-law downstairs, but
Okay.
in the room, it's just me, myself. And I've also started when I come back from night shift in the morning, and I wake my kids up and try to sit them on the floor, close their eyes or open eyes,
Right.
just for 1 minute, just sit down before you start your routine.
Wow.
So this much change I have noticed in my life since I've joined Brahma Kumari.
It's a small thing, but it's also a
It's
huge thing.
And I can see the difference, but I think if I have the power of carrying on this, I can make the big difference in my life, and I want to give that to my children's life as well.
But what a tremendous gift you're giving to the children.
Thank you.
I really honour and salute you in doing that.
Thank you.
It's great. And it's, you know, in a child's life these days, that moment of doing nothing is pretty rare, actually. So to give them a chance to experience that is really special. And I love this idea of when you first wake up, making time to have that experience. And it's actually a little trick of the Brahma Kumaris. We have this practice of waking up ahead of the rest of the world waking up. And there is this profound stillness in the world early in the morning. It's deep stillness that you can't find at any other time of day. And you know that the phone isn't going to ring. There is going to be none of this bombardment that we talked about is going to happen. And you can just dive into the ocean of silence in those precious early morning hours. So if anyone hasn't ever tried that, try it. Set your alarm 20 minutes before you need to be up. Create a little space at home that is your place for sitting and experiencing your calm. You might want to light a candle. You might want to burn some fragrance. You might want to have some little affirmation cards that uplift you, but sit and just experience the stillness and the silence and the uninterruption. And it can become this powerful energy that carries you throughout the whole day. It's very powerful. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for your talk. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
My friend brought me here 3 years ago, and I've never been so happy in my life.
Wow.
And I wanted to tell you that I take Sister Jayanti to work with me every day.
She's a busy lady.
Yeah.
Right.
I work very long shifts.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I'm out driving a lot, and when it gets to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon I get really tired, so I find a lay-by. I put my practical meditation tape on, and I do an 8-minute meditation with Sister Jayanti, and then I work till 9 o'clock, absolutely full of energy. It's incredible. You know, so that's the biggest thing for me, that I can do those long, long days, and just by having a very short meditation in the afternoon, I can get through to 9 o'clock at night and still drive home feeling great.
What an amazing thing to be doing.
Mm.
But isn't that interesting how silence can feed us, can give us energy? What else does that for us? You know, you could spend that time checking your messages. That's not going to give you energy. And yet, diving into that experience of silence, as you're saying, actually creates energy that wasn't there before. And I guess what it does is it, you know, a lot of the tiredness that we feel is in our mind. It's the burdens that we're carrying. It's the worry. It's the anxiety. It makes us feel heavy. And so when we take time and have this experience of stillness and silence, those weights are falling from us, and so they make us feel lighter, which creates this sense of having more energy. And it's very real. It's a lovely sharing. Wonderful. If anyone hasn't yet discovered these meditation commentaries, they'll be available down in the bookshop downstairs. And yeah, take them with you wherever you go. When you have a bus journey, plug yourself in. Listen to the meditation. Build it into your everyday life. It is amazing the difference that it can make, as you beautifully shared. Yeah. Anyone else journeying with different ways of bringing calm? Just as a show of hands, how many of you have a daily practice of sitting and experiencing? Yeah. It's a lot of people. And, you know, I really salute that, because, you know, it's not easy. There are so many demands on us in our lives. Our time is so stretched that you do have to be quite determined to make time for it. It's not going to just happen by itself, because of all these external influences that we talked about are so, they're omnipresent. They're there all the time, that we have to consciously choose to step away from that, to make a commitment to having that time and that space. Okay, so shall we move into an experience now of our own inner stillness? So I'm just going to speak a few words to share a thinking process that can support us in finding that place within us. So feel free to follow those words or not, as you choose. So as I sit comfortably, allowing the body to feel relaxed, letting go of any tensions that I may be holding in any part of my body. I just take a few deep breaths. Drawing in the air into my lungs. And I feel myself becoming very still. I'm aware of the preciousness of taking this time to simply be. I have no expectations of any outcome. There is nothing I need to achieve in this moment. I'm not responsible for fulfilling anyone's expectations or needs in this moment. This moment is simply to be. What does it feel like to be me? Who am I? Who is the I when I say I am? I am a being of light. A being of consciousness. A being of pure awareness. And in this moment, there is a sense of my being which feels separate from this body. There is a realization that this body is not who I am. This is simply my vehicle. This is my way of operating in the world. I give love and respect to to this vehicle. But at the same time, I am not defined by it. I am not bound by it. I realize that through the vehicle of my thoughts, I am free to travel. I'm free to be whoever I want to be. And in this stillness, I can experience the eternal qualities of this state of being. This feeling of peace feels completely natural for me. There is a sense of diving into this ocean of peace. This is my true nature. I feel a profound sense of love and connection. This feels completely natural for me. I realize that I am love. And I begin to have a sense of overwhelming joy at the simplicity of this pure experience. Joy for me, again, feels like a natural way of being. And these feelings begin to well up. My heart feels expanded. I feel a sense of homecoming. I feel a sense of being held and supported by a loving energy that has always been there for me. I feel held in the palm of this hand of love. I feel myself being gently caressed by this experience of deep love. And in this moment, I feel complete. There is nothing that is lacking. I feel whole once again. And ever so gently, I allow my thoughts to return once more into this body. And as they do, I see the preciousness of this one beautiful life. I feel the potential for greatness. I feel the power of transformation. Let me remain fully awake to the potency of this experience. Let me feel a connection to the power of this intention. That I will fully manifest as a being of peace. This is who I truly am. This is my true nature. I can carry this experience with me wherever I go. I am peace. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. So, on behalf of all of you, I'd like to thank Philippa for a very exhilarating, entertaining evening and a very experiential evening.
Good.
So expect a text on your WhatsApp, Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, but not snapshot. That was so yesterday.
So yesterday, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
So you can see how Philippa shared her experiences, especially from coming back from the media background. But for all of us, there is some form of chaos. But how to remain calm is actually very simple. And this is what the Brahma Kumaris is all about.